President Trump says he looks forward to speaking with a special counsel.
The president going so far as to say that he would be willing to talk to Mueller under oath.
It will create a constitutional violation of checks and balances and separation of powers for anyone to question the president's actions.
We can now exclusively report that the Department of Justice has now started and is recovering some of the 5 months of missing text messages.
It's huge news. They can get these text messages. There is no way there was a technical glitch.
The mayors who choose to boycott this event have put the needs of criminal illegal immigrants over law-abiding Americans.
President Trump arriving in Switzerland moments ago, set to be judged on the world stage.
He's going to Davos to say this: America is open for business again. You should come here and invest.
Todd Rundgren starts the 6 o'clock hour live from, as you can see, 21st Century Fox World headquarters, 48th and 6th Avenue, Midtown Manhattan at 6 a.m. Where's your president? He's in Davos, Switzerland, where it's noon.
That's right. He is there for that conference, and this is the first time in 17 years that a sitting president has been there since Bill Clinton.
Right, and it's very interesting how people say, wait, why would President Trump go there? After all, it's America first. Why would you go to these global elite
to ski, of
event?
course.
Yeah, of course. No, I think he's going to go down to business. He's going to talk about the America that he's trying to shape. Remember, it's America first, but not America alone. And he's going to talk about the impact of his tax reform, what is going on with the economy, and he also wants to bring home business, and that's a great place to do it.
Because he says when America does well, you all do well too. The world does well, and he is one of these men. He's not afraid to face conflict.
No,
people are saying there are going to be protests there.
He's not used to conflict.
Look at this. Most guys most individuals would shy away from this. He's like, bring it on. I'm going to tout America.
Absolutely. He rattled everybody's cage in the world stage a couple of days ago when he put these tariffs on washing machines and on solar panels to impact people who make the same things in China.
To encourage Made in America. Right.
Absolutely. The president did tweet out a little while ago that he was looking forward to what was happening. Also, interesting thing happened late yesterday. The reporters in the briefing room at the White House were called into the chief of staff office, and they said, we're going to have a little off-the-record talk. You can turn on your recorder, though. And in walked the president of the United States. And you know what? He did a lot of talking about all sorts of things. We're going to play some of the sound bites. Here he is talking about what he hopes to accomplish at Davos with the economy.
The economy is doing very well.
Great.
I'm going to Davos to get them to bring back a lot of money. They're going to invest a lot of money in this country. I made the statement that if we didn't do the regulation cutting, which I think is actually maybe more important than even the tax cuts, but the regulations, I think you would have had a much different situation. But our people are very happy, especially with their 401ks.
And, it's kind of interesting in that I was watching Mike Allen of Axios on with Dana Perino yesterday, and he said, hey, Dana, one more thing. I know a lot of people have a different opinion about, what President Trump, how he's going to be received. There's actually a real anticipation and anxiousness. There's a lot of people who can't wait to talk to him and be with him and find out what he's really all about. And we've also heard reports, too, from people like Senator Lindsey Graham. He says, I've never seen anybody in small, intimate meetings more powerful and more engaging than President Trump. This could be a huge opportunity.
But also there could be a huge photo op, because apparently there are a number of people who have suggested boycotting his comments, but then they thought, if we boycott, we won't really be making a stand. So instead what they're going to do is, as soon as he starts to talk, apparently a number of people are going to stand up and leave. They are reportedly angry about what he had reportedly said in that closed-door meeting regarding immigration. He says he didn't say that word. They think it was referring to countries in Africa, so it sounds like some of the African delegation may be leading that. I was told by somebody who was in the room that day that he wasn't talking about just Africa or Haiti. He was also talking about Europe and Asia and pretty much the whole planet.
All right, we've got Anthony Scaramucci, who's also in Davos. He is the former White House communications director for 11 days. He's going to be on our show at 8:30 this morning to talk about what's happening there and the state state of our economy. And speaking of our economy, all these companies here in America, I mean, we put up a full screen and it might have had 10 companies on there a few days after he announced tax reform. Right. And now look how many companies are joining these other companies that are giving bonuses, higher wages. Look, we have to scroll it up because there's so many companies. And according to our Fox News poll, our economy, people are viewing it in a very positive way.
Yeah, and the first time in a long time, too. And we always said that ultimately the corporate tax rate will be reflective of how responsible the CEOs are because they're getting the break of their lifetime and they are responding and putting politics aside in many cases. So the Fox News poll is now out. And here's one of the questions. Has the Trump administration made the economy better, worse, or the same? 40% say better, 22% say worse. Where are they living? And 34% said the same.
Right. Now, think about that graphic right there as you look at it. 40% better. Keep in mind, they're talking about since the beginning of the Trump administration. So, in other words, since the Obama administration to a year later, 40% of the country says things are going better.
If you add up the first number and the last number, it's about 75%. So 3/4 of the country either thinks they're just the same or they're doing great. And these are the best numbers that we've seen in nearly 20 years.
But keep in mind, too, there's a great portion of the population who say this is still the Obama economy.
Yes.
And in fact, I saw a poll, not a Fox poll, that said most people, 49 to 40%, give credit for the surging economy to President Obama, which is interesting. It's already been it's been a year.
One of the other questions that was asked of the people who responded to the Fox poll was who was responsible, which political party, for the shutdown a couple of days ago. 32% say the Democrats were responsible. 24% say the Republicans. So it looks like more people are saying
no matter
the
how you
Democrats
vote, it's a great number. The economy's doing well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the president was asked about a lot of things yesterday, and he does this thing called answering people's questions directly. And he was asked, hey, you got to speak to Robert Mueller? And many are surprised by his answer, including me. Listen.
Are you going to talk to Mueller? I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Do you have a date set?
There's been no collusion whatsoever. There's no obstruction whatsoever. And I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. No, I guess they're talking about 2 or 3 weeks, but I would love to do it.
Would you do it?
You know, again, I have to say, subject to my lawyers and all of that, but I would love to do it. There's no collusion. I couldn't have cared less about Russians having to do with my campaign. The fact is, you people won't say this, but I'll say it. I was a much better candidate than her.
So he's looking forward to it. And he did mention his lawyers a couple of times. Afterwards, they went and talked to Ty Cobb, who is his lead attorney. They say he remains committed to cooperating and looking forward to speaking with Mr. Mueller. It could happen in the next couple of weeks. It's interesting, though. They did apparently, one of the news outlets got a list of some of the subjects that they want to talk about, the range of topics. They want to talk to the president allegedly asking Mr. Comey to drop the investigation into Mike Flynn. They want to talk about the president's reaction to Mr. Comey's testimony in May of 2017, because we hear, according to the news outlet, that the president was angry. And finally, the president's outreach to the intel leaders regarding the Russia investigation.
When I heard that the president said, yeah, I'll talk to him, I thought that was very smart, because he's saying I have nothing to hide. His attorneys will be smart not to let him do this, because we're dealing with an investigation many people think has bias, and many people say it is a trap, and many people say that he just speaks off the cuff, and he could get himself in trouble.
So there could be a hybrid where he answers some questions on paper, and then he is allowed to answer in person certain topics. So in other words, anything about obstruction might be answered on paper, whereas he would talk about Russia collusion in person.
Did you also notice that he said, I couldn't care less? Do you know my whole life I said, I could care less, thinking that was the way you say it. You say, I couldn't care less. I just learned that about a year ago, because if you say I could care less, it means you really do care.
Right. I think it would be a huge mistake for him to do it, because you have all these other people who gave their versions of reality. You don't want Trump versus Papadopoulos as the new headline. Next is the president has on his agenda is immigration. And we got about 3 weeks to get something done and put something on the president's desk formally next week.
Really,
He's going to
Brian.
I agree. And I think the president's going to put the 4 things he needs, specifically what he needs. And he said some interesting things about what he wants and what he would do for DACA kids who are now young adults. He essentially would give them about 9 to 11 years. They would become citizens. That rocked maybe Senator Tom Cotton's world, but we'll see. Senator Joe Manchin, one of the people on the Democratic Party who the president really loves talking to, and here's why.
We do need a wall. In certain places, we need a wall, and I think the president has acknowledged that. Chuck will come around, and he'll call it border security. Someone will call it a wall. Whatever it is, we're going to do it. We're going to do what it takes to secure our country.
And keep in mind, as you think about build that wall, which Senator Manchin says right there, the LA Times yesterday confirmed what we had told you earlier in the week, and that is apparently Chuck Schumer offered $25 billion to build that wall. But then after everything went south for the Democrats, he withdrew that offer.
That is huge that Joe Manchin is saying build the wall. This is what compromise looks like. If the president says, I'll take care of DACA, maybe throw in their parents, then you guys give me the wall, and that is what negotiation looks like.
Ainsley,
and I think the American people appreciate that.
The president said Joe talks a lot, but he doesn't do a lot. But last time he did vote to put us back on track and end the lockout on Monday. So my hope is that
81 to 18.
My hope is that John Tester didn't, somebody else who needs a seat in a red state. But my hope is that he feels empowered now to stand up to his leadership and get something done, because that's been the issue. They've been hostage to Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and now Chuck Schumer.
Are they protesting outside of his house like they did Chuck Schumer?
No. They're not in West Virginia.
So what do you think about Joe Manchin calling for the wall? Email us, friends at foxnews.com.
All right, coming up at 11 minutes after the hour, could John Kerry be eyeing another White House run? What he just said about taking on Trump is unbelievable, and not in a good way.
Plus, how do Americans really feel about that wall we were just talking about? Well, we just found out. Here's a hint. Democrats aren't going to be happy. It's 6:11, New York City. You're watching Fox and Friends. Senate Democrats shut down the government for 3 days all over DACA. But do the American people approve? Well, not according to a new Harvard-Harris poll, which finds that 58% of people oppose the move. Here to break down the findings is the chairman of Harris Poll and former Clinton chief strategist, Mark Penn. He's also the author of the forthcoming book, Microtrends Squared. Mark, good morning to you.
Morning.
Okay, so what's going on?
Well, as you can see, I think it was a good thing that the shutdown was really a mini shutdown because the public really didn't want to see the government shut down over this. But when you look at the president's basic proposals, 65% say, hey, yes, we want DACA recipients to get a path to citizenship, but we also want to curb chain migration. It was a shutdown of no consequence. So I think the fact they pulled out of it on Monday was a good thing. They've laid down a marker. I think it kind of worked for everybody realistically.
So you, according to your poll, the American people are in line with Donald Trump's approach to immigration, doing something about DACA, building a wall, chain migration, and the diversity lottery program. You also, during the timeout for the folks at home, you were talking about how you also agree with the Fox News polls that shows that the economy is booming and a lot of people are feeling it.
Well, Trump's overall ratings remain around 42, but he's getting 54% approval on the economy and stimulating jobs. If he could figure out how to run the government better, have a better position on some of the other issues, he might approach the kind of credit that he's really getting on the economy, which 68, 69% in our last polls see the economy is quite strong, which is an incredibly remarkable finding. And at the same time, only a third favored the tax reform bill last month. Now it's almost a half. So that bill is gaining a lot of traction as more companies declare bonuses.
Well, and as the companies declare bonuses, but also, Mark, in a couple of weeks, when the withholding kicks in and suddenly people have a little, they got 25, 50 more bucks in their pocket every week, they're going to start noticing it.
Well, only 20% think they're getting a tax cut. So if the Joint Center for Taxation Committee says that it's 80%, there's a huge gap there between what people think and what may be coming.
What do you, overall, as a pollster, how do you see Americans turning around toward the Trump presidency? I know some were reluctant in the beginning. We can't believe this guy's our president. Now he's the president. There are a number of people over in Davos waiting to talk to him. They want to slap him on the back and say, good job with the economy.
Well, look, I think a lot of progress has been made about the economy, but remember, 70% still don't like those tweets, and his presidency still has a lot of problems. It's a very divided country. I think a strong economy is the bedrock for a good presidency, but he's a long way from achieving that on all fronts yet. So I wouldn't really say that he's tipped. His job approval ratings still stay around 42 in our poll, slightly higher in the Fox poll.
Interesting stuff. All right, Mark Penn from the Harris Poll. Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. It's about 6:20 here in New York City. Coming up, Democratic mayors boycotting a meeting with President Trump yesterday over his sanctuary city crackdown. Our next guest showed up, and he has a powerful message for the mayors who skipped it. There was a word missing in the teleprompter. Plus, this carjacker picked the wrong guy to mess with, a Vietnam vet.
So I reach in there and I grab him around his neck. You're a sorry individual.
Good morning to you. Back with some headlines, starting with a Fox News alert. 2 violent attacks on law enforcement overnight. In Denver, 1 man is in custody and 2 more on the run after a sheriff's deputy is shot and killed chasing an assault suspect. Dozens lining the streets with flags saluting the body of 32-year-old Heath Gum. The 5-year veteran of the force leaves behind a wife and family. And in Detroit, a police officer fighting for his life after being shot in the head responding to a domestic violence call.
We have shots fired on the officer at the location trying to get a status on 731. They have a barricaded gunman.
He's in the house. We have a woman on the street saying he's going to have a mental breakdown.
The officer is en route to the hospital.
The suspect arrested after an hours-long standoff with police. A Russian spy ship is lurking less than 30 miles away from the U.S. coast. Our military breaking flaming cement blocks with their heads. Mattis traveling across Southeast Asia, working to build alliances as tensions rise with China. I don't know, guys. Sounds like a challenge. You think you'd be up for it?
That's something
Very
new.
interesting.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, fear of conservatism taking center stage at another college campus.
The University of Connecticut, UConn, banning the public from attending conservative commentator Ben Shapiro's appearance last night and offering counseling to any students who might be offended by what he would say.
Please. Todd Pyro was there, and he joins us now. Todd, what was it like?
Good morning. It was great. You know, he's so insightful and he's so articulate. Packed house for Ben Shapiro at the University of Connecticut. The college Democrats also hosting his speakers simultaneously. We visited both. Check it out.
I'm here to see Ben Shapiro. I've always wanted to see him.
I just think he's a pretty intellectual person. He has some insightful opinions.
I'm here to listen to his ignorance, and I'm here to listen to him and hopefully get a word in.
I love the way that he, really comes forward with thought-out ideas.
We should be able to freely be open about who we are, whether we're a Democrat or Republican.
Something has to be done about a system where a few crazed leftists decide that they don't want to hear somebody speak, and therefore people from the outside who pay taxes to universities like this one can't get in. That has to stop.
Why is an event like this so important for First Amendment rights?
Well, I think it's always important for people who are not necessarily of the prevailing political view to be able to come on campus and talk to students who are not used to hearing these viewpoints, particularly if they find them discomforting and uncomfortable.
The university's response, do you think it's an overreaction to what happened here a few months ago?
I think there's no question it's an overreaction, but, they're the ones who have to do the security assessment. So I'm not going to second-guess their security assessment. I will second-guess their assessment that they need to close it off to the general public.
I don't care who comes there. Let the guy talk, give his opinion.
Free speech is more important than people's feelings, so there shouldn't be acts of violence because people disagree with one another.
What do you think of the university offering counseling to those who may not be able to handle Mr. Shapiro's speech?
I think that if you can't handle it, then that's kind of sad. Most people here, I would think, can handle a leftist speaker.
So a packed house here at the Ben Shapiro event, line stretching around the block. Let's go check out the counter event also going on at the exact same time.
I think this is a much better alternative than going and giving Ben Shapiro exactly what he wants, which is for people to come and
scream at him and protest him so he can go on, post a YouTube video like Ben Shapiro destroys like UConn liberals or something like that.
From what we understand, the university is offering counseling to those who don't agree or can't handle Mr. Shapiro's opinions. What are your thoughts on that?
Hey, I can answer that question if you want.
I'll ask you.
Yes, anyone who feels that they need mental health services from the University of Connecticut is entitled to those services, regardless of the reason.
What do you think it says about the state of the First Amendment that a university has to limit participation in an event that 20 years ago would have been open to everybody from all sides to have a discussion?
It's crazy. I mean, there should be a full discussion between all sides and have, be able to actually hear all points of view, especially at college campus.
It's a great thing that universities have people like me, and yes, like the person who's speaking opposite me on this campus, to give a variation of ideas. That's a wonderful thing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming out.
Now, the crowd at Shapiro's event was capped at 500 people. Many more turned away. It was a fascinating night.
What did they cap the attendance at the Democrat rally at?
I didn't get the number. It looked like they were pretty good. But, you heard the comments there about counseling. As a Connecticut...
Who was that guy who came in?
He just came in and totally mansplained that young lady who was giving an eloquent counter to Ben Shapiro, which if you listen to Ben Shapiro, that's exactly what he wants. He wants a dialogue where views are expressed and then everybody learns from the views. That guy just came in and shut that poor woman down, and I thought it was horrible. It was total mansplaining, and he said, we need counseling for everything.
Did anyone show up to go get counseling?
I don't know the answer to that, but, it really there are people who really do need counseling. Counseling is a serious matter. There are people with very serious issues who need the best counseling available, but not for this.
But in the world of counseling, Ben Shapiro is not a carrier. Right? He is not the reason. If you show up for counseling because of Ben Shapiro, I think that you're way overdue.
Yes,
you probably
But it was
are.
peaceful. It was peaceful.
Very peaceful.
There weren't any fists thrown, no fighting.
What was good, if there was a big positive to take away, this is the First Amendment on display. You have two different scenes.
Exactly.
That's right.
UConn, hats off to you.
Yes.
Fair and balanced.
Fair and balanced.
All right, Todd, thank you. Thanks for getting so early after a late night.
In the break, we get our counseling in the break, so that's what we're going to right now. Could John Kerry be eyeing another White House run? Keep your fingers crossed. But what he just said about taking on Trump, to me, is out of bounds.
Plus, Democratic mayors boycotting a meeting with the president over his new sanctuary city crackdown. Our next guest did show up for the meeting, and he has a powerful message for those mayors who decided to skip it. Weekend co-host Anna Koyman and her husband Tim. They welcomed in Brooks Koyman Stuckey on Monday night at 8:45 p.m. Australia time. Brooks was Anna's middle name and her grandmother's maiden name.
All right, little Brooks weighed in at a little more than 7 pounds. He's healthy and strong, and he's like Anna, has a lot of energy, and has had visitors across the world, including Anna's parents from North Carolina. That's in America. Mom and baby are doing great, and Dad is already thinking about which sports Brooks will be playing.
That's right. And Anna, take a look at this, just enjoyed her first glass of wine in 9 months.
Oh, good for her.
Congratulations to Tim and Anna.
We are so happy for you guys. He is beautiful.
Fantastic.
Oh, it's the best day of your life.
I cannot believe in Australia they serve liquor after you deliver a baby. This is fantastic. I love that country.
We do that here in the United States. We do the same thing when after every one of our children.
In the hospital?
I took champagne into the hospital. Absolutely.
My best friend had a baby, and a couple of us went to visit, and we took wine.
Really?
Yeah.
So that is your formula for the
That
baby?
is the formula. Yep.
Everyone weigh in on this. Please
Celebrate.
send your emails to Brian. Have you been living under a rock?
Well, yeah.
Women can't drink for 9 months.
But you can't bring liquor into a hospital.
Yes, you can. Everyone does that.
I thought the only alcohol was rubbing alcohol.
Think about the powerful things in a hospital.
Can I just tell you, I think even when our moms delivered, they were able to smoke in the hospital.
No, during delivery, they encouraged it.
Well, that's because Dad was next door at the bar.
I know. You ever see the
Back in the
sitcoms where the
50s.
dad's waiting in the waiting room, pacing back and forth?
We bought a bottle of champagne on our honeymoon in France, and then we opened it when our baby was born.
Oh, see, I like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jillian's here.
Brian, you got a lot to learn, man.
I know.
You got some other news.
When you can drink and when not to.
Let's get you caught up on some of your headlines, starting with this. Former Secretary of State John Kerry could be considering a second bid for the White House. According to the Jerusalem Post, Kerry told an associate to Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas that he might challenge President Trump in 2020. Kerry also suggesting Abbas form his own peace proposal. The report saying Kerry asked for Abbas to personally attack President Trump, who he claims is responsible for the stalled peace process. It's like the scene straight out of a movie, a wild police chase ending in a terrifying head-on crash and a dramatic takedown. And of course, it's all caught on camera. Authorities say the red SUV was speeding down a street in Arizona before crashing head-on into another car and flipping over several times. Look at that smoke. Moments later, the suspect gets out and starts taking off right before officers move in and take him down. No one was hurt. A Vietnam vet proves he's still got a lot of fight in him when a guy tries to steal his truck. The robber jumping in 69-year-old Alan Huddleston's vehicle after asking him for a cigarette at a Texas gas station. Huddleston then dragging him to the ground. The suspect eventually steals his wallet and keys before driving away with Huddleston clinging to the door.
Partner, there's no doubt in my mind you've done this before. And I guarantee you it'll catch up with you if you hadn't been caught yet, but you will be caught.
He escaped with a broken leg. The suspect is still on the loose. Let's look at your headlines, guys. Scary scene, though.
No kidding.
All right, thanks, Jillian. 24 minutes before the top of the hour. We broke this story yesterday on Fox and Friends. The Department of Justice now threatening to subpoena nearly 24 cities if they don't hand over information on their sanctuary policies.
Some Democratic mayors, they didn't like that, so they decided to boycott a meeting on infrastructure with the president at the White House.
And the mayors who choose to boycott this event have put the needs of criminal illegal immigrants over law-abiding America.
So was this just another political stunt from the Democrats in another attempt to resist the president? Right now, here is a mayor who was at the meeting. He's from McKinney, Texas, Mayor George Fuller. Mayor, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Doing great. Why it was on infrastructure and on opioids. And what did you hear yesterday that was so important to you?
You know, we had an opportunity to meet with the president, talk with staff from Intergovernmental Affairs, on infrastructure. Opioids was a bit of a discussion, but really it was an opportunity for us to air our grievances and just talk about future plans of with $1 trillion coming for infrastructure in this country and how our cities could benefit. So it was a meeting well worth having.
Great.
Mayor, there were a lot of Democratic mayors that did show up. Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, decided to skip the meeting. Here's a soundbite from him, and then we'll get your reaction.
I came down here ready to have a serious meeting, and what I got was a publicity stunt from the Trump administration. If there had not been this obviously premeditated attack on these cities, I would have gone to the meeting.
President says mayors like that are putting the needs of illegals ahead of law-abiding Americans. What are your thoughts?
You know, boy, that's a tough one. I do believe that we are a country of laws, and so certainly we need to abide by them, and we have ways in this country to change those laws when we don't agree with them. So, you know, my city is a city where we're fortunately not having to deal with those items. We're a city with a law enforcement department that works closely and will continue to work closely with local, federal, state officials. So, you know, I think they missed an opportunity, is what I think.
Mr. Mayor, there's two
to be heard,
right,
and to have a meaningful dialogue that benefits our community, and I think that's that was what was missed by those who didn't attend.
Right, no kidding. I mean, there's two reasons to go. One is it's the right thing to do. You get invited to the White House. Number two, you're an elected official. You go, whether it's President Obama, President Clinton, President Bush, or President Trump. Number two is what other opportunity do you have to be heard by the president and his staff? What are your job? Your job is to give a voice to the people of McKinney, Texas, and this guy's job is to give a voice to the people of New York City and let them know when infrastructure coming down the pike and money about to be freed up, it's time to speak up, not play politics. Usually mayors don't play politics like this.
Yeah, I feel the position of mayor is a nonpartisan position, and for me to let my political views or an opinion on any single subject would be a disservice to the community. I mean, I'm here to represent our community, to find out how our community can benefit, and to take a stand against a something and lose the opportunity that we had. I don't see it as something that I would have done. Certainly, they must have reasons that I'm just not familiar with.
Right, and you wouldn't do it, but imagine the people who live in the cities where the mayors did boycott, and the reason they boycotted, according to the president, was they were putting the needs of criminal, illegal aliens over the law-abiding Americans.
Yeah. Well, again, just missing an opportunity to represent your community and to be heard on issues that are important to your community. Just not something that I feel would have been prudent for me, and certainly I question those that did.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I have my checkbook open. Pretend I'm President Trump, and I see you have an infrastructure pitch. Give me your infrastructure pitch for the McKinney, Texas area. What do you need?
Well, let me tell you, we're one of the fastest growing cities in the country, and we are half built out. We are 175,000 strong, growing to 320,000. So when I talk about infrastructure for McKinney, Texas, yeah, we need infrastructure. We need roads. We need transportation. We need housing. We need every bit of help that the federal government is willing to give
You need
us.
part of that $1 trillion is what you need.
Ainsley, write him a check.
A lot of people live in McKinney and then they commute into Dallas. You need good roads.
That's right. I got relatives there.
You can't grow without them.
All right, Mayor, thank you very much.
Checks in the mail.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to steal it from Brian's checkbook.
Right, fantastic.
Thanks,
the country's
Mr. Mayor.
checkbook.
All right, would you believe me if I told you? I mean, I'm shocked by this. 1 in 6 millennials have 6 figures in the bank.
Of course they do.
It's true. So how did they do it? And how can you build up your bank account?
Is there an app for that?
Are you jealous of your kid?
Yes.
Plus, the Department of Justice warning it'd be reckless to release that bombshell FISA abuse memo. Reckless? The judge is going to weigh in. Does it put America's national security at risk? He knows he's next.
Or listen.
Are you going to talk to Mueller? I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Do you have a date set?
Just a second. There's been no collusion whatsoever. There's no obstruction whatsoever. And I'm looking forward to it.
So should the president do that? And what would it look like? Let's talk to the judge. What do you think?
Well, the bottom line is you don't talk to a guy that owns a grand jury. And Bob Mueller owns 2 grand juries, one in Virginia and one in Washington, D.C. Look, the president is convinced he's done nothing wrong. But the president couldn't possibly know what Bob Mueller knows about the case, the thousands of documents he's seen and the hundreds of witnesses that he and his team have investigated. This is what we call a perjury trap. It's not actually perjury because the president would not be under oath. This is a conversation.
He said he would do it under oath.
Well, under oath means in front of a grand jury, which is even more dangerous for him.
Does he really have a choice? Because last night on Sean Hannity's show, Alan Dershowitz, professor, he said if they ask him to come and speak to him, he doesn't have a choice.
He has a choice to decline to speak to Bob Mueller, his prosecutors, and his investigators. If he is subpoenaed by the grand jury, he has no choice. There, he'll have to decide whether or not to invoke the Fifth Amendment. If he invokes the Fifth Amendment, the word gets out, that'll be politically catastrophic, but legally, it will protect him. If he answers, and answers the way we know he likes to answer, where he doesn't always use most respectfully an economy of words, he's going to give them an opportunity to trip him up. They tripped up George Papadopoulos. They tripped up Mike Flynn. They are expert at doing that. You can't talk somebody out of charging you with a crime if they're determined to do it.
So, Judge, what about all his years? He does have a lot of experience in depositions, right? I mean, he's got a lot of lawsuits when he deals at business levels at this level. So does that going to help him?
That is a great question, Brian. But in that environment, he has seen the documents about which he is testifying. Here, he has not. He doesn't know what they know about him. He doesn't know what others have said under oath about him. It is very easy for them to trip him up and get him to say something that is contradictory to what he already said.
He's smart to say, I'll do it, I have nothing to hide, and then he can later say, actually, my attorneys won't let me do it.
His attorneys have been saying they want him to do it because he wants to do it. I just hope that they don't, because this is a very, very dangerous environment. Let's put it this way. In all the years that I've been involved in this end of the legal profession, I never heard of someone talking prosecutors out of charging him.
Okay.
When you go to talk to them, you make it worse.
All right, Judge, the Department of Justice came out last night. They said, hey, House of Representatives, you can't release that FISA memo that they're trying so hard to do because national security, blah, blah, blah.
I am furious over this. I haven't seen it, of course, but it's been described by members of the House Intelligence Committee as career-ending, KGB-like, lawless behavior.
No wonder they don't want it out.
Right. By the NSA, our domestic spying apparatus, and by the Intelligence Division of the FBI. This committee sat on this while Congress expanded FISA. So 22 members of Congress knew these secrets of lawless behavior by the NSA, and the rest of Congress did not know about it. The 22 sat on it while the rest of Congress debated and expanded FISA.
So who's gonna
They
win?
should have known, the rest of Congress should have known what the House Intelligence Committee knows. Now, if the House Intelligence Committee doesn't vote to release it, I encourage any member of the Intelligence Committee to go to the floor of the House and read it into the record, because the speech and debate clause of the Constitution protects members of Congress from the consequences, the legal consequences of what they say on the floor of the House.
How are they going to get the copy, though? Isn't it still in the SCIF? Isn't it in the secret room?
They can characterize it. They can. I'm not suggesting somebody steal a document, but somebody can certainly, from their memory, tell everybody what's in there. Why does the government treat us like we're children? Why don't we know who has abused the power we've given them? Who knows of the abuse and who knowingly looked the other way?
Jim Jordan said that he thinks there's been over 200 Republicans who have showed up to view that document. No Democrats that he know of has shown up to view that document.
I think one.
I just don't know what the Democrats are up to. They should be as interested in transparency as the rest of us.
All right. Thanks, Judge.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Judge.
Meanwhile, 10 minutes before the top of the hour, those FBI lovers traded thousands of anti-Trump texts, but lots of them are now missing. Are we any closer to finding them? There's big news on that this morning via Sean Hannity.
And despite what you might think, millennials are getting their financial houses in order. 1 in 6 have $100,000 socked away. How'd they do it, and how can you build up your bank account? We're going to dig into that next.